being funneled. Every entrepreneur will have to make sure that information makes sense to them. There is need for the news to go out there of the opportunities that exist and how they can be harnessed. And these opportunities, this awareness needs to be at the local level. What opportunities exist within your district? What opportunities exist within your region? What opportunities exist nationally? And now, as even the regional market expands, what opportunities exist in the region? Congo coming on board, what does that mean for the entrepreneur? So there are certainly opportunities for more information to go out.
According to Dr. Chibuka Mohamed, investment is divided into small and large-scale investment, and most of Uganda's investors have not reached level of formalization because most of them operate in small-scale businesses, and that is why they don't do research about incentives.
Incentives for local investors, they are there, but they are limited compared to the incentives given to the foreign investors. But even then, those limited ones are not well communicated to the people. The people in Uganda are not aware. The programs to publicize that are very few. I myself, I rarely see. For example, the director of Uganda Investment Authority rarely comes out and even writes about the incentives Ugandan local investors would really enjoy. There could be some incentives which very few people are aware of and they are exploiting. Things like tax holidays. I just wonder, a person from an investor from my local village there in Iseta, Butambala, when will that investor be aware that when you import such a machine which produces local goods, all the taxes you have paid will be refunded to you? Call upon at least the leaders and the policy makers like the speaker that the translation of policy and the dissemination of policies in Uganda is still a major problem. Uganda is is on a decentralized system, but you may find that in a full district, the representative of Uganda Investment Authority or related bodies are very few. Either there is one who is coming also from Kampala, is not down to the ground. People don't know what is going on. Like even the farmers, there could be a lot of incentives for farmers who would wish to add value to the agricultural products, but they are not aware, so they are not encouraged. And there is no way we can strengthen the currency when the local production is not strengthened.
All right, now more information is very relevant in regards to business, I should say, from that issue of the lawyers. And entrepreneurs need to at least have that in their minds, that information about business is also important and also very relevant for their business and the growth of what they exactly believe should be helpful to them as the people. And also, looking at the other aspect of life and still on the journey of business, there are things that you would need to notice more responsibly as an individual. There are things that you would feel are important to you and also important to those in law, and that is what information regarding business is what we've actually been able to realize in that report. Because remember, information regarding a specific field that you're in and also knowing how the law responds to certain circumstances is also very vital. All right, now we're heading into a topic of discussion, as this time around we are definitely going to be more about looking at interior designing this time around, and what are the key aspects of interior designing, what are those things that you need to know about interior designing in Uganda, and then also why is it very important in the real estate sector about interior designing? Why is this very important? Remember, with the other report before the break, we're looking at furniture. That is also part of interior designing, by the way. Now, there's also if we're to look at the world scope of the world of real estate in Uganda, interior designing should be one of those that should not be taken for granted, I should say, because if you go in the real estate world, or if you look at the real estate experts, they will tell you that is also a sector of its own. There are interior designers. In a time, by the way, in Uganda, it is just during this generation that people are now taking interior designers more seriously. Because back in the time, someone would actually feel, I'm done building my house, or I'm done getting my apartment, my mortgage is set already, I just need to go and buy chairs, buy tables, buy my bed, or buy these curtains, then put inside the bed, then put inside the house, get a carpet or two, put inside the house. As long as it's actually appealing to me, according to the test that I have, then I'm good to go. But now with the issue of interior designers, you get to realize this is more of someone who is more of a builder, I should say. Someone who comes, you share with them the idea of what you want in your living room, or what you want for your house, and then they can imagine a life for you. They can actually imagine that artistic view, that you would deserve a color of this texture on your walls, then you would desire a carpet of this type on your floor, then you would desire chairs of this nature, or this color, or this type of chairs should be the ones that you should put in your living room. And then when you focus on the dining table, this is the type of the dining that you need as an individual. So looking at that steadily, it is for you to understand more that interior designing is also a key is actually very important in real estate. As a real estate developer, you will definitely agree that real estate and interior designing, look at furniture, all those things are very important. That is why when you go to apartments, one of the things that incite someone's love to stay in this particular hotel room is the type of the designs they find in this room. Then there's also a need for you to at least view or give yourself time to appreciate the work of art in this hotel room. That is exactly what comes in with interior designing, and why interior designing is very, very important for the people in there. So it is something that you need to at least accept, that interior designing remains a crucial part in real estate management in Uganda. In the hotels, for example, the instance I've actually given you is that when someone moves into a hotel room and the beds are on point, you look at the bed sheets, you look at a lot of things in there, and those things always make it more easier for you to love this room and you feel attached to it. So this is why we were going to be looking at more about the interior designing. Now, in our SMB topic of discussion today, we have Kawewo Brian, who is coming to explain more about interior designing and why it is important, and why people need to at least understand more about it, and why you need to get more discussions with that. But you can as well go into our Twitter, that is at Smart24TV, and also focus more on the issues about what we drive the business here, how we drive it, and the topic of discussion. Also give us your feedback on how important interior designing is to you. How do you take it? Has it been something of interest to you as a Ugandan? Because sometimes when you're opening up the situation about houses, if you're building a house, you're done constructing, you're entering your new home, there are things that we tend not to give time. Things like interior designing, we tend not to give our time to such things, but especially at a time when the world is actually moving faster, you got to realize you have to hire an interior designer who will come and at least show you the best way of doing most of these things. So this is the exact thing that Brian Kawewo is going to be helping us with in regards to interior designing, and how important and why it is very important for you to notice that as a real estate developer, or as someone who is interested in real estate, you need to know the importance of interior designing and why it is very important to have it. So with our topic of discussion, we're heading into interior designing and what it takes to venture into the interior designing sector.
Actually, the best definition for interior design is giving character to a space that has boundaries. So most people have the perception that interior design is putting furniture in sitting rooms, bedrooms, and things like those. But interior design is actually giving character to a space that has boundaries. So if you look at a compound, that's an interior space because it has the boundary wall. So any space that has perception that interior design is putting furniture in sitting rooms, bedrooms, and things like those. But interior design is actually giving character to a space that has boundaries. So if you look at a compound, that's an interior space because it has the boundary wall. So any space that has a border, we refer to it as an interior. And the design of an interior is giving character to that particular space, to give it a purpose, to give it a meaning. That is what the definition of interior design is. So it goes beyond adding color to spaces, but just giving them character, making them usable for a particular purpose. Inspired me to do interior design because I started out as an architect. I started out doing architecture work, so design of buildings. But after my first job, I interned with an interior design firm, and we worked on a hotel, the best Western hotel in Entebbe. And I got the feel and love of adding character to space, because it was just a shell of a building, and all the work that we're doing to this building kept giving it more and more value. I mean, it's a hotel where you're having a night at about $200 to $300 a night. So from a shell of a building to something that to have such value, it gave me really so much inspiration. And from that I then decided to apply for a master's in interior architecture, which I did in the Netherlands from 2015 to 2018, when I came back to Uganda to then start the venture as a proper career path. Developed world, for all of those of you who are watching, interior design is a very, very profitable business. It's a very profitable venture. But in Uganda, it's something that hasn't yet been appreciated because people do the work themselves. Someone has a building, someone has a house, someone has a restaurant, someone has a hotel, and they just get pictures off the internet, Pinterest, and they try to copy what's on the internet and implement it in their space. Yes, it works, but at the end of the day, it doesn't have what we call a design language. If you ask someone, why did you do this? Their reasoning is, I liked it on the internet and I thought I would use it in my space. So that sort of ideology that we have as Ugandans makes the profession not have its value, because the professionals are then not hired to give those characters to those spaces. And eventually when you tell someone, I'm an interior designer and I'm going to charge you X and X amount of money for the job, he says, no, I can do that myself. I'll just go to the internet, get a few images and put them in my space. So elsewhere in the world, it's a very profitable venture. In Uganda, the appreciation is just starting. Like everything else that is starting, it's always a struggle. You're trying to get very many people to appreciate what you're doing, to give them a difference between what they would have done themselves and what you offer them as a professional. With any other venture that is new, you need people to pull to it, to get drawn to it. So eventually, in a number of years, it will be appreciated as a venture. The requirements for interior design are just the brain for creativity. You see, interior design is not like having a business where you will have stock and keep it. The stock is your ideas, the ideas that you have in your head. So the investment that one needs to do is a lot of research. You need to read and see how other people are doing these things. If you say you want to do interior design, start with your room, get ideas and try to implement them and see how that goes. If you can give a reason as to why you've done certain things, that is a very good start. So it has no monetary investment like a business would have, like a retail business. You're not going to say I need 100 million to have stock. The stock is in the brain, the ideas that you have. The more ideas that you have, the more stock that you get. Then of course, there are just certain things that you need to work with. You might have to get a computer for yourself, sketch paper, pens, colors, things to just help give character to the ideas that you have in your head. So the investment is just you getting as many ideas as possible, reading about the profession, reading about the ventures, trying to understand how certain things work. Of course, interior design is a part of architecture. So for the young people in high school, it would be nice to go into the architecture field, do architecture in campus or at university, because you get to understand reasons why things are the way they are. It's that knowledge that then can help you make the decisions that we make in the profession. Because no one ever understands why a chair is the size it is. But that's the knowledge you get from the education. So part of the investment is also the education. You get to study these things. If you need to go to architecture school, you go. There are programs out there for interior designers. You can go and get those. They're there online. You can apply and attend or things like that. So that's the investment of getting into this venture. Have the expectation of getting rich and getting money, then it's not the right venture for you. It's not a venture that I would advise you to get in. It's not a get-rich scheme. This is something that requires patience, because you need to look for the clients. The clients have to approve of the work that you're doing. Then those clients will tell other people that this person does ABC. And from there, you build a connection. But that doesn't take 1 minute. It doesn't take a day. It doesn't take a week. It takes time. So if it's a get-rich scheme, it's the wrong business. Otherwise, if it's get rich, I'll tell someone, go and do sports betting, But they're not the same things. You cannot put time and money in the same sentence with this profession. Yes, the money is there when it comes, but there's a lot of time that you spend. And time comes with things like approvals. People need to like the stuff that you do. It's not something that you do and it's obvious that you're going to get rich. No. It takes time. It's about building rapport. It's about people understanding that this guy does this stuff, this guy does these good things, let me refer him to this person. So when you keep generating those referrals, you keep getting those numbers, at the end of the day it returns in monetary value. Because if you get 10 clients a month and each client is giving you X amount of money, multiplied by 10, that's quite a lot of money. But if you're also if you're not doing the work of working to impress, doing the right things, then it doesn't work out. It's not a get-rich scheme. It's something that requires patience and time. And with time, you get to learn more. You learn from your mistakes. You make something better than the previous. For me, if there are very many of you doing the same thing, that's a very good thing, because that means what you're doing is needed. If you're the only person doing something, then whatever you're doing is not needed. So if there are many of you doing the same thing, beating the competition is just doing something better than the other person. It's just simple macho physics. If you're better than someone at something, you'll be above them. So that's how you beat the competition, if we may call it that. It's just about doing something better. Yes, there are people who do much better than me, but I always strive to reach their level and pass them. That's how it works. So like in high school, if all of you are studying the same subjects, you're reading the same, but you're all not that fast. Someone is putting in the work more than the other. They're reading harder. They're spending more nights in class so they can be better than the person next to them. So that's how it is with this venture as well. You just put in the work, do enough research so that you're better than the person next to you. Point of inspiration is following your passion. You know, most of us grow up with this ideology that your parents tell you have to do this and you have to follow through. But midway as you grow up, as you get older, as your brain matures more, you get to realize what you want to do. When you put time into doing what you want to do, you achieve more. Inspiration is out of asking questions. Some people say, I want to do this, and they straight away jump into it. They don't do the necessary research. They don't ask questions. They don't talk to people doing the same thing. They just flat out jump into it. It doesn't work, and they say, no, this wasn't my thing. Let me try something. And it goes into that spiral of events, changing from one thing to another. But if you want to do something, get in touch with people who are doing it. Ask them how they're doing it. Hang around them as they're doing whatever they're doing. Understand the traits. What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? Ask them questions. Before you get into this whole idea of I'm going to get into this to make money, understand how it works. And the only way to understand how it works is by being around the people doing those particular elements. I can't reveal as a person, but it depends on the job that you're doing. It depends on the job that you're doing. And with this venture, your work speaks for you at the end of the day. There's no price list. You charge based on what you offer. If your work is good, you can say 10 million, and someone says, oh, okay. If your work is not good and you say 10 million, it's like, no, I have someone who can do it for 5. So there's no price list. The charge is based on the work that you can do. Of course, you have to do your background research. How much is it going to cost to make this, this, and this? How much is it going to cost to make this and this? After putting all those figures together, you come up with a price and say, okay, if the client wants me to do blah, 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 and then I calculate it on the side, then I say, oh, this is how much it's going to charge. You can't come up with a ballpark figure and someone charge you this. You need to know the scope of the project. Different projects come with different prices. Different prices, different clients. I mean, you need to know how to price your clients as well. You're not going to come to a teacher and charge them 10 million shillings to do their living room. Because they're going to ask you, what does 10 million shillings cover? They don't earn 10 million probably in a year. And you want to take that away from them. But if you find a client earning 80 million shillings a month and they want to do their living room, and you charge them 10 million shillings for their living room design, it makes sense, because probably you're going to import furniture from Italy or from Spain to meet their standard, the level where they are. So there's no particular price there's no standard price that you charge. Everything is dependent on what the client wants, on what you can offer. That's what is involved in pricing.
Let's first take a break and we continue with more to do with interior designing. Stick around.